All right, so for my advertising agency profile, I actually did Rothko, and this is kind of what their website first looks like when you go onto it, which I thought was interesting because they're actually an Irish company, and they're kind of bringing different cultures into it just when you first look at them. Their website's rothco.ie. It's a really interesting website to go to, so if you have time, I definitely recommend going to it and just kind of looking through it. Their mission statement is "We're changing our clients' fate and fortune," which is kind of interesting, and they put it all over their website, so you can find it in multiple places and multiple examples of how they're changing it and how they're really working to do the most that they can for their clients. Their only locations in Ireland, and they were actually founded in a wool shop in 1995 in Dublin, which is kind of interesting. But even though they're only their only locations in Ireland, they still have many global companies that they work for. So Kodak, Heineken, Liberty Insurance. They also work for Rory McIlroy Incorporated, and he's actually an Irish golfer, but he is very well known in the States if you follow golf at all. And he's an amazing golfer and very well known and respected in sports. So it's kind of interesting that they work for him and do some advertising for him too. So yeah. A couple new things that they were doing right now that I kind of found on their website were one for Heineken. They're doing it with this gentleman named Neil Back. He's actually one of the most hated ex-rugby players from England, and they're kind of taking a different spin on it and wanting to give him a different stereotype when people think of him. So they're working on redoing that in different locations over in Europe. Another thing they're doing is bringing blood, sex, and storytelling to Kane's Lions, where they're getting a speaker to actually talk about how if Shakespeare were in this time, how he would do advertising with the changes in technologies and all the different things like that. So that'd be really interesting if I could go, but I think it's in Ireland. So all their contact information I thought was even interesting, even though it's just boring information. They have all these different contacts for account directors, internships, copywriters, stuff like that, but they also have a section where it's only for people if you can't find what you're looking for. There's a section right here where you can go and send your information. Where it even mentions they've hired PhD qualified scientists before and stuff like that, where they're really not discriminating against advertising students or anything like that. So me being an accounting and advertising major, that really stood out to me that they made a point to say that they're not only looking for advertising majors. So the campaign that I decided to do was Stone Dead in 3 minutes flat. It was for Gas Networks Ireland, and it's actually about carbon monoxide because it's a problem it's a bigger problem in Ireland than it is in the States. But so they did this for them. They did a lot of commercials for them, which are really interesting. They're really funny, actually. And one thing that they noticed in the research of it is that life-saving messages are very dull, and they made this one actually very interesting and very funny. They brought an Irish spin into it. So they use a canary because history's shown that canaries were used in mines to actually detect carbon monoxide for the workers to be able to get out in time because it will kill you within 3 minutes. That's the whole dead within 3 minutes flat. The canary's name is Tommy McCanary, which is like an Irish name, so it's kind of fun. And I attached a link to a YouTube of one of the commercials, one of the many. And on page 8, it mentions that countries are similar with respect to the penetration of goods, but people are different in the different countries on what makes them buy them. So my discussion question is that if they use the same campaign in the United States, what might be a typical American setting that they might use, and what instrument would the canary be using? Because in the Irish one it's a banjo, but in the United States we don't hear banjos very much. So I hope you look it up, and I hope you enjoyed.